In our headlines on this Monday, October 20th, here in South Korea, having already passed its prosecutorial reform bill, the ruling Democratic Party today shares detailed plans for judicial and media reform through its special committees. Meanwhile, President Lee Jae-myung pledges a bigger budget for aerospace and defense research over the next 5 years, amid South Korea's hosting of its largest arms fair. And the Foreign Ministry here confirms that at least 10 more South Koreans have been arrested and 2 others rescued in Cambodia from online scam operations. The ruling Democratic Party is ramping up efforts to complete its 3 major reforms. Having already passed its prosecutorial reform bill, the party today unveiled detailed plans for judicial and media reform through its special committees. The judicial reform proposal expands the number of Supreme Court judges from 14 to 26, while the media reform bill strengthens punitive measures for malicious circulation of false information. The DP aims to pass the 2 remaining reform initiatives within this regular session, which lasts until December. And Monday marks the start of the second week of the first parliamentary audit of the Lee Jae-myung administration, and rival lawmakers clashed fiercely over legal proceedings against the former administration and more. Our Kim Bo-kyung has details.
The very first parliamentary audit of the Lee Jae-myung administration has entered its second week. On Monday, 13 standing committees of the National Assembly held audit sessions, and one that saw fierce political clashes was the Legislation and Judiciary Committee, where the audits of the Seoul High Court and the Seoul Central District Court were held. The political clash was over Judge Ji Gui-yeon, a presiding judge at the Seoul Central District Court, handling the case of former President Yoon Suk-yeol regarding his short-lived declaration of martial law. Mentioning how he overturned the detention of former President Yoon in March and accusing him of receiving entertainment hospitality, lawmakers from the ruling party strongly argued that the judge should be replaced.
The judiciary plays a key role in ending the insurrection and is the last line of defense for constitutional order. But right now, it's not fulfilling that responsibility.
A series of housing market stabilization measures the Lee administration has come up with, from the first set in June to the most recent one in October, were also brought up during the National Policy Committee's audit session. The opposition party criticized that the measures would not work in blocking the spread of housing price hikes.
The June 27th measures worked, but they're just a short-term fix. What we need is more housing supply. The September plan failed. It had no real impact. We should provide homes where people actually want to live, not in areas no one's interested in.
Political tension remained over multiple committees regarding the issue of Kim Hyun-ji, the presidential aide allegedly having interfered in the appointment of the Korea Forest Service chief, and an intellectual property settlement deal made between the state-run Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power Corporation and U.S. energy firm Westinghouse. The Foreign Affairs Committee is slated to hold an on-site audit at the South Korean embassy in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, on Wednesday, with lawmakers expected to raise issues of inadequate consular protection amid a surge in abductions of Korean nationals. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
On the economic front, South Korea says there have been substantial advances in trade talks with the U.S. and that a deal may be sealed within this month. Our An Sung-jin reports.
Negotiations between South Korea and the U.S. may have seen some progress following trade talks in Washington. Upon arrival back in Korea on Sunday, Presidential Chief of Policy Kim Yong-bum stated that some progress had been made on most key issues, though some still need coordination.
The possibility of reaching a final agreement before the APEC 2025 Korea has increased through the visit.
No specific details were provided on the breakdown of the $350 billion investment in the U.S., such as the payment method or a potential currency swap agreement. Kim did, however, note that the U.S. is fully aware of the impact that the investment would bring to Seoul's foreign exchange market. The U.S. had previously demanded a full upfront payment of the $350 billion investment, whereas Korea had proposed an extended investment period of around 10 years or an increase in loan payments instead. Neighboring Japan is to be investing funds per individual project rather than a lump sum upfront payment. Meanwhile, amid ongoing trade talks, South Korea's key business leaders, including Chairman of Samsung Electronics Lee Jae-yong, Chairman of SK Group Chae Tae-won, and Chairman of Hyundai Motor Group Chung Hee-sun, gathered for a golf meeting with President Trump alongside business figures from Japan and Taiwan. Though details of the golf meeting haven't been specified, there's speculation on whether the leading figures from South Korea's chip, automobile, and battery discussed investments in the U.S. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Back here on the domestic front, the local bourse extended its record-breaking rally today. The benchmark KOSPI soared past the 3,800 mark for the first time to close its session at 3,814.69. According to market analysts, this latest stellar performance was driven by the thaw in trade tensions between the U.S. and China and a reduction in U.S. credit risks. South Korea's per capita GDP is expected to fall 3 places to rank 37th this year. Now, this is according to the Bank of Korea on this Monday, citing findings by the IMF's World Economic Outlook that showed South Korea's per capita standing at $35,962 this year, down 0.8% from last year. Taiwan, meanwhile, is poised to rise 3 places to rank 35th, surpassing South Korea for the first time in 22 years. A total of 197 countries were included in the latest IMF report. President Lee Jae-myung has pledged a bigger budget for aerospace and defense research to rank South Korea among the world's top 4 in terms of defense industry. Arirang's Yoon Jung-min reports.
A bold investment to make South Korea one of the 4 major powerhouses in the global defense industry. That was President Lee Jae-myung on Monday, addressing a major arms fair, the Seoul International Aerospace and Defense Exhibition 2025 at Kintex.
2030년까지 국방 R&D 그리고 항공 우주 R&D에 예상을 뛰어넘는 대대적인 예산을 투입해서 미래 국방을 위한 핵심 기술과 무기 체계를 확보하고.
He added the focus will be on developing special semiconductors for military purposes. The commander-in-chief also vowed to introduce a fast-track system so that the armed forces can swiftly adopt new technologies and create an environment where smaller firms and startups can actively take part in. Another focus was on international cooperation.
세계 시장에서 K-방산의 경쟁력을 확보하기 위해서는 단순히 뛰어난 제품을 수출하는 것을 넘어서 안보 협력 파트너라는 새로운 브랜드 가치를 제시해야 합니다.
President Lee underscored the need to develop not just cutting-edge technologies and homegrown weapons, but to achieve self-reliant defense, as he presided over a discussion with industrial officials the same day.
저는 우리 대한민국이 지금과 같은 상황에서도 자주 국방을 해결하지 못하고 국방을 어딘가에 의존해야 된다고 하는 생각을 하는 국민들이 일부라도 있다는 사실이 저는 좀 납득하기가 어렵습니다.
South Korea's defense spending will be increased over the next 5 years. The government has upped its defense budget for next year by over 8% to some 66 trillion won, worth $47 billion amid tensions on the peninsula and geopolitical uncertainties. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
And in related news, South Korea is currently hosting its largest ever arms fair, with firms showcasing the power of their latest unmanned and AI-enhanced defense equipment. Our Park Jun-an was there.
The South Korean Air Force's Black Eagles aerobatic flight team is showcasing their spectacular flight performances. The team also painted the sky with smoke, forming the tech symbol, the central emblem of the South Korean flag that represents balance and harmony. The Black Eagles also performed a formation named Heart and Cupid, drawing heart-shaped clouds in the sky. This airshow was the opening event of the Seoul International Aerospace and Defense Exhibition 2025, the country's largest defense-related event that promotes the excellence of South Korean defense capabilities.
Seeing it up close, it was just amazing. I thought about how hard they must have trained. Watching them fly made me feel more patriotic and connected.
It was so cool. I wish I could fly one myself.
Seeing it in person felt really different from watching it on YouTube. You can feel the thrill that videos just can't capture, and I really like that.
After the airshow ended, visitors had the chance to take a closer look at the actual planes, helicopters, and various other defense-related machines. Following the conclusion of the three-day airshow, the defense exhibition opened on Monday. The exhibition will be open to the public for 5 days until 5 p.m. on Friday. This next-generation infantry fighting vehicle features technology that can counter drone attacks, a crucial capability in modern warfare. When asked about the future of modern warfare shaped by AI and unmanned systems, a senior research engineer said,
AI-based autonomous driving and detection tracking technology enables unmanned vehicles to enter hazardous areas without risking human lives. AI can also maximize effectiveness by refining and training data to suit South Korea's military environment. Based on sovereign AI, it is expected to prevent technology leakage and strengthen combat capabilities through independent AI advancement.
The operations team of ADEX 2025 said that this year's exhibition will serve as a stage not only for defense products, but also for highlighting next-generation innovations that shape the future of advanced air mobility. Park Jun-han, Arirang News.
In other news, starting Friday this week, South Korea's terror alert level will be raised from Stage 1 attention to Stage 2 caution ahead of its hosting of global leaders attending the APEC meeting in Gyeongju next week. Also, starting next Tuesday, the terror awareness level will be further raised to Stage 3 alert in the host city Gyeongju and in its neighboring cities of Busan, Daegu and Ulsan, as well as the surrounding Gyeongsang-Pukdo and Gyeongsang-Namdo provinces. Now, Stage 3 alert is the second highest in the four-tier system and will result in tighter traffic control and expanded screenings at airports and seaports. Both measures will remain in place until November 1st, when the APEC event comes to a close. There have been more arrests and rescues related to virtual scam operations based in Cambodia as South Korea steps up its response. Our Moon Ji-young has the latest.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs confirmed that at least 10 more South Koreans have been arrested and 2 others rescued in connection with online job scams in Cambodia. They are expected to return to South Korea this week. This development follows a closed meeting held by the ministry on Monday, during which Foreign Minister Cho Hyun announced plans to add 40 consular positions and established an early warning system to combat crimes in Southeast Asia. Meanwhile, as part of efforts to crack down on and apprehend the remaining nationals believed to be involved in similar cases, top police officials of South Korea and Cambodia held a bilateral meeting. Their discussions reportedly included the formation of a joint response task force and the establishment of a police unit in Cambodia exclusively dedicated to crimes involving South Koreans or a Korean desk. Separately, South Korea's National Police Agency has also decided to form its own dedicated task force to address the surge of crimes targeting South Koreans in Cambodia. This comes after the death of a South Korean college student, identified only by his surname Park. An autopsy was conducted by Cambodian and South Korean officials in Phnom Penh on the body of the 22-year-old victim on Monday. The autopsy came about 70 days after Park's body was found and involved 7 Korean officials, including pathologists from the National Forensic Service. The autopsy revealed no signs of organ damage or mutilation. They added that the exact cause of death will be definitively determined by combining the results of upcoming histological and toxicology tests to be conducted in South Korea, as well as the findings from ongoing investigations in both countries. Meanwhile, back in South Korea, police have arrested a key suspect linked to the case. The suspect, a man in his 20s, is accused of being the main figure who lured Park into opening a bank account and later arranging his travel to Cambodia, where he was reportedly confined and killed by a voice-facing crime ring. A pre-trial detention hearing was held at the Andong branch of the Daegu District Court on Sunday, which approved the arrest warrant due to the suspect being deemed a flight risk. Authorities have been tracing the flow of money connected to Park's accounts and analyzing communications among those involved since the arrest of another broker in early September. Separately, 64 South Koreans detained in Cambodia on charges related to online scam operations returned home on a chartered flight early Saturday. According to police, most of them will face criminal investigations in South Korea as suspects in cyber fraud and illegal recruitment schemes. 문지영, Arirang News.
And South Korea's embassy in Cambodia will work to offer consular assistance beyond its regular working hours. Now, this is according to the Foreign Ministry here, following a media report that a South Korean national who escaped from a criminal organization in Cambodia had been unable to access timely assistance. The ministry says the individual in question was instructed to temporarily seek shelter at the security post at 7 in the morning and was later accommodated by an official who headed to the embassy before its working hours. Meanwhile, in the Middle East this past Sunday, Israel hit multiple targets in the Gaza Strip after alleging that Hamas had shot and killed 2 Israeli soldiers. Our Airshows reports.
The Israeli military said after 9 p.m. local time on Sunday night that it had resumed enforcing the ceasefire in Gaza. This comes after the fragile U.S.-brokered ceasefire deal that started on October 10th faced its first major test. The Israeli military says it acted after Hamas fighters fired weapons, including an anti-tank missile, and killed 2 Israeli soldiers in Rafah, calling it a blatant violation of the truce. Israel says its forces struck Hamas targets across Rafah, Khan Yunis, and Nuseirat, including 6 kilometers of underground tunnels. Hospital officials say 44 people were killed, including women and children. Among those killed was a senior Hamas commander. Hamas's military wing denied involvement in any clashes, saying it remains committed to the ceasefire under which Hamas is supposed to relinquish its weapons so as to no longer pose a threat to Israel, but warned that new attacks could push the situation toward total collapse. An Israeli military officer has also confirmed that the delivery of aid that has been temporarily halted would resume Monday, local time. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump acknowledged to reporters that Hamas has been quite rambunctious and doing some shooting, but also suggested that the violence may be the actions of rebels within the Hamas organization rather than its leadership. President Trump also emphasized that the ceasefire remains in place and that the Israeli strikes were under review and would be handled toughly but properly. 이은진, Arirang News.
On the cultural front, the Kansong Art Museum Daegu opened its doors last year and has attracted hundreds of thousands of visitors during its first year. Cha Yun-kyung has more.
To celebrate its opening, Kansong Art Museum Daegu showcased 97 Korean national heritages and treasures in its opening 3 months. More than 1,000 visitors a day came to see the famous items, such as the Haerae edition of Hunminjeongeum, the painting portrait of a beauty by Shin Yun-bok, and the Celadon Maebyeong with inland engravings and boys' design from the Goryeo dynasty. Visitors queued outside the museum before it opened, even on weekdays. Kansong Art Museum Daegu is named after a patriot who tried to protect Korea's heritage during the Japanese occupation. The museum has been showing around 300 pieces since its opening, attracting more than 400,000 visitors. Half of them came from outside of Daegu. Most visitors also went to the nearby Suseongmot Lake and Daegu Art Museum.
Lots of visitors came with in-depth questions, showing huge interest in national heritage.
I feel very proud to realize the spirit of Kansong, to instill visitors a sense of cultural pride.
Kansong Art Museum Daegu is getting ready for the new exhibition for next year after celebrating its first anniversary. 차윤경, Arirang News.
This is The World Now, bringing you the latest stories from around the globe. Across the United States on Saturday, nearly 7 million people joined more than 2,700 No Kings protests, a massive show of resistance against what organizers call President Donald Trump's authoritarian overreach. Protesters chanted, "This is what democracy looks like," waving flags and yellow banners symbolizing unity. Organizers say the movement grew after mass immigration raids and the deployment of federal troops into Democratic-led cities. Speakers, including Senator Bernie Sanders, accused Trump of undermining democratic institutions, while demonstrators warned that freedom of speech and public services are at risk amid the ongoing government shutdown. In Paris on Sunday, a team of thieves pulled off a 4-minute heist at the Louvre Museum, escaping with 8 pieces of jewelry described as priceless from the Apollo Gallery before fleeing on motorbikes. Officials say the robbers entered through a window shortly after the museum opened. They cut through glass with power tools and grabbed jewelry dating back to the French monarchy and Napoleonic jewelry, including tiaras, necklaces, and brooches before speeding off. French President Emmanuel Macron condemned the robbery as an attack on national heritage and vowed those responsible would be brought to justice. Authorities say the theft was likely carried out by professional criminals targeting valuable art. The bassist and founding member of Limp Bizkit, Sam Rivers, has died at the age of 48. The band announced his death in a social media post on Sunday, but did not disclose the circumstances of how he died. Limp Bizkit calls Rivers the group's heartbeat, saying his talent was effortless and his presence unforgettable. Frontman Fred Durst said he has shed gallons of tears and praised Rivers' ability to pull beautiful sadness out of the bass. Rivers previously battled liver disease and underwent a transplant before rejoining the band in 2018. Limp Bizkit rose to fame in the late 1990s with albums like Significant Other and Chocolate Starfish and the Hot Dog Flavored Water. The band said, "Rest easy, brother. Your music never ends." Chu Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
Sudden cold came across the country. This morning, the temperature on Seoraksan Mountain plunged below 0 degrees Celsius, and the lowest temperature this fall was recorded in many parts of the country, including Seoul. Tomorrow morning will be even colder than today. Please dress extra warm when you go outside. Currently, there are rain clouds around the East Coast. It will rain as little as 5 millimeters to as much as 40 millimeters along the East Coast until tomorrow. In addition, strong wind warnings are in place along the coast of the Jeollado provinces and Ulleungdo Island. It will be cold tomorrow morning across the country. Many areas will start off in the single digits, with Seoul at 4 degrees Celsius, Chuncheon and Daejeon at 6 degrees. Daily highs will stay below 20 degrees all over the country. Rain in the eastern parts of Gangwon-do province will continue until Friday. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Right, those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. As always, thank you for watching.